Gear up, Scooter fam. Which scooter am I going to get next? All right, so today I thought I would go over some of my choices that I'm sort of narrowing down. I wouldn't say, necessarily narrowing down. There are some that have dropped off. There are some maybe new ones that I'm considering, but so it's not just all, starting from large and going to small because some other ones come back in for whatever reason. Something I like about it, something I didn't like, it left or whatever. So just wanted to give you guys sort of an update on where my head is as far as getting my next scooter. So before I get into that, I just wanted to give you guys an update. So the new InMotion RS is not going to be called the V9. That was a mistake. It was in a video that InMotion had actually at CES that said that, but that whoever was there making that announcement that day is wrong. I haven't heard if if it's going to be called the InMotion RS2 or it's still going to be called the InMotion RS or how that's going to play out, but it's not going to be called the V9. They have a electric unicycle that's coming out that will be the V9, which makes more sense to me considering their electric unicycles are all V scooters. Another problem that I was going to discuss that I've heard with the new eMove Daytona scooter is there's issues with some speed wobble, instability, what have you, because of the testing, the models they're testing right now aren't up to spec for these types of high speed testing, and so they're kind of backing off some of the high speed tests for now on this early pre-production model, if that's what I said. So yeah, the pre-production model isn't quite up to spec. They want to make a few adjustments before releasing the final, and supposedly not wanting to push the high speed limit. So at the moment it's not recommended to take over 40 miles per hour based on how it's currently spec'd out and built and so forth. So supposedly they have some 3D printed parts that they're not going to be using on the final version, and that's some of the problems. But either way, they don't really have a good one to test at high speeds at this point. And taking a look at the scooter now that I've seen a little bit more, it folds up, but it doesn't fold up well. Not the worst thing in the world, but it is something to think about. And the foot peg thing, I'm liking less and less and less. It sticks out quite a bit, which is hard to see on some of the stuff, but it definitely sticks out. And I don't see anybody standing on those. I really don't. They're put there so you can go fast on your scooter to take it to top speeds and so forth. Once again, I think it's a bit dangerous when you try to come to a stop, but there's other issues as well. First of all, you're going to be standing. I haven't seen anybody do it yet, but when you get on the scooter and you're standing on the scooter and you're holding the handlebars, this thing is this wide. Okay, these things are this wide, and you're going to be rocking. Your feet aren't flat. You're only in the arch of your feet on these things, or maybe your tiptoes, whatever the case may be. You're not solid as far as going back and forth. So the only thing you really have to control your forward and backward movement is the handlebars, and so you're completely dependent upon the handlebars holding you up. That's bad, right? That's not good. Certainly, that's not good going 70 miles an hour. Anybody that would stand on a peg this big with your feet kind of being able to move around, slow. I mean, people are talking about their foot slipping off and so forth. I can't imagine going 70 miles an hour. I mean, that sounds like a disaster. So just something that I wish they weren't there. personally. Certainly wish you could just take them off very easily because I'd want to do that. I kind of wish they were removable, easily removable. They may be able to take them off, but I don't know how easily that would be to do. All right. Before we get into looking at the scooters that I'm going to be considering, I wanted to talk about the criteria that I'm using for consideration. And absolutely number one thing overall is stability. I've heard of slower scooters having instability. I've never been on a scooter that had instability whatsoever. The Hover One Journey Max, it only goes 20, 21 miles an hour, somewhere in there, but it's solid as a rock. It doesn't move, doesn't wobble, nothing. The scooter is solid all the way up to its top speed, and that's what I'm talking about. So if the scooter goes 20, I want it to be able to go up to 20. I don't need it stable, and so I don't need it to be able to go, faster than that. I don't want to have to dial it down because the scooter isn't stable at high speeds. Even if I never travel those high speeds, it's not something that I would get. I mean, I want the scooter to be able to do what it's able to do at all levels. I'm not buying something just because I won't ever use that, so it doesn't matter. Well, it matters. I'm paying my money for it, and who knows? Maybe I'll one day, you know, get some, wild hair or whatever the case may be. I just feel super comfortable on the scooter. Maybe there's a controlled area I could take it and try it out, in a controlled place where there's no traffic and so forth, and things that can randomly happen. Who knows? I mean, and I had plenty of gear. Who knows? You never know. Anyway, the point is, if I buy a scooter that can do that, I want it to be able to do that safely, whatever its capabilities are. Value is the next thing. It's got to be bang for the buck, right? I'm not going to go into a scooter and buy something that I think for the money I'm not getting the best deal. I still think scooters have some room to come down, and I think they will as we go, just in general, slowly. But as more competitors enter the market and start having good deals, people like T-Wing offering really good deals on specs and BV scooters, that's gonna drive prices down in general overall. So that's the thing. They're probably in general slightly overpriced. That's my opinion. And there's lots of reasons for that, but inefficiencies here and there. Who knows? But in any case, so value is a good point. I want to be able to get the best scooter for my money, and that's a big thing. If it's not stable, it doesn't matter. But assuming the scooter is stable at its top speed, then I want it to be a good value. I want to be able to get bang for the buck, where I compare, other scooters of similar price points and look at their specs. I can't ride them all, so I'm not going to pay for something I can't quantify. And obviously, why would I? I mean, I have to go test ride all of them and see what I thought about all of them before I made a decision. And if that, occurs, then fine. But sitting here, basing it on what I'm basing on, I can't take someone else's word for it either. This scooter feels amazing. Well, that's a objective opinion, and so or subjective. That's really based on opinion, and so I will likely, look at what I've got to base it on, and that to me is specs. How does it compare? And so forth. So talking about battery size, top speed, motor controllers, amps. I mean, just everything you can think of. That would tire size, tire type, whether it's PMT or these others. A lot of scooters come with PMTs now. Um, Brakes, all these things, are gonna play into decisions on these, and for the dollar, is it a good value? And that's a really big thing. As I'm not necessarily looking to spend this much money on a scooter that's nice and new, and it's got all these things. But if there's another scooter that's just as good of a scooter for a better price, and I like it just as much, then yeah, I'm gonna consider it. Obviously, if I don't like the scooter, I don't like the scooter. But there are plenty of scooters that I do like, and I go back and forth between them. They need to be reputable. That goes for the company and the customer service as much as possible. Obviously, we're still talking about comparably. Not all scooter companies are probably on their top of their game right now, but that's one of the things that comes along with getting an electric scooter at the moment is early market nuances. So reputable, meaning the scooter's reputable, the company's reputable, on both quality control and customer service, so that I feel like I'm going to have a good chance of getting a decent scooter. And if I don't get a decent scooter, I have a good chance of getting some support that is taken seriously, because likely I'm going to need support at some point, whether it's right away or not. The scooter really has to be built solid. I mean, it comes along with just not the stability, but also just the build, right? Meaning the scooter has a no problem. So forth, like the RS is experiencing with the wires. I mean, it just has to be super solid. It needs to be solid. It needs to be very well put together, with a lot of thought behind it. So attention to detail. Like I said, just a solid build overall. All right, so let's get into the ones that I'm considering. I'll tell you what I like about them, tell you what I don't like about them, and then I'm gonna list them in order from most likely candidates, or I'll give a list of. I have a list of a few in each category. So a few that I'm seriously considering, a few less likely, some that there's still an outside chance, and then some for now there's no shot. So the first one is the Solar Hyperion. What I like about the Hyperion, first of all, my number one thing is stability, and it's very stable. Even though it's got a single stem, single stem as opposed to a dual stem setup, it's tested and be very stable. And they don't even make a steering dampener for this scooter because of how stable it is. That's a big thing to me. Obviously, it's number one on my list of criteria for consideration. So that's a plus. Second, the value. I mean, I am also a big proponent of value, as I said, and this scooter is a really good value. Solar scooters are really good values when I'm looking at the specs, comparing them, looking at them side by side and so forth. They really offer a lot for the money. So that's two thumbs up on that scooter already. For that, it's a solid build is my other thing. It's got a fairly solid build. I have some questions around the build and some of the things that I do question. One of them is the split tires. The split tires. If I knew that the split tires worked as well as advertised, I would feel very good about buying this scooter. So that's one of the things. I just want the solid tires, the split rim tires, to work. If the split rim tires, when I say the split rim solid tires, so as long as the split rim tires work as intended, and it's easy for someone to do at home without any special kind of tools or equipment, other than just normal tools and equipment, then if that could be alleviated. My fears alleviated on that, then that would be fine. The other issue is the acceleration issue with the traction control. So that might be something that's been addressed, but at the moment, if you hit bumps, your accelerator, doesn't. It responds by killing it, right? So you don't get any acceleration. You don't continue to get acceleration when a traction control cuts cuts in. So maybe that's been addressed. Maybe it's something that they've worked on. But if I were to, and these are strong candidates, by the way. This is I'm in the strong candidates category. This is a very strong candidate, and it's the first scooter that I'm talking about. So it's certainly a very strong candidate. It's got a lot of good stuff, stability, value. I think the build is overall solid. I like the design, and if those two things, and I may just send them an email and ask them straight up, hey, I know these two things I wanted to ask about. I haven't heard anything bad about the split rims. That's just my own concerns. And so I'll ask them about that, and then I'll let them know that I heard some things about the traction control causing issues with trying to get acceleration when you're hitting even small bumps. So just curious about that, and I'll find if they alleviate my fears on that, and they agree to if I test this scooter out and I have problems with it, because I'll test it. To be honest, I don't want to wait. I want to test the tire thing out right away. Changing a tire, even if I just disconnect it and reconnect it, I'll make sure I can air it back up again. If not, I'll put it back in the box and send it back. I'll never even take it on a test ride. I just want to make sure that that's one of the things. So I'm gonna ask about that, and then the other one I will have to take for a test ride, which will be the make sure that the acceleration feels like it. I'm not overly picky. I'm not going to take it on any high speed test runs, and don't need it to fly. I'm not going to be timing myself, but I just want to know that it feels good when I'm out riding, and I don't notice any weird things when I'm hitting the accelerator. I don't want to feel like it's not working. So that's a big deal to me. If they can alleviate my fears on that, say it's been updated, so forth, we've addressed it, fine. I haven't seen anything or heard anything, so I'll ask specifically. And then of course, I want to get their confirmation if I do take it out and notice some problems, that I'll be able to return the scooter after testing it. So some places don't let you do that. If they let me do that, then high possibility. All right, another high possibility is the Segway GT3 Pro. I really like this scooter a lot. The more I've thought about it, the more it's kind of sunk in a little bit. That it's one that keeps coming back to me. So I have it on my list of highly likely strong candidates. And one of the things, talking about the stuff that are big considerations, criteria for me, is stability. And I do think that the Segway did a decent job on having the scooter be stable up to speed, and so I really wouldn't have too many concerns about that with the GT3 Pro. It doesn't go that fast, to be honest. It only goes up to 50 miles an hour. But if you're going to design a scooter to go up to 50 miles an hour, design it to do so in a stable and solid manner. So I think they've done that, and so they definitely get a thumbs up on that one. Value, I just don't know. I don't know what they're going to charge. Segway can be a little high on their prices. They certainly were on the GT1 and GT2 in the beginning. They kind of normalized around a regular price, and so it just depends how that starts off. If they're overpriced, especially in the beginning, it'll take a step down, because I am looking for value. But right now, I don't know the price. If they release it at a decent value, it'll be a strong consideration of mine for sure. What are some other things I like? I really like the design. I really like the design of the scooter. I think it looks better than the GT1, GT2. Although I did like those, this one is better. It's got a sleeker design. It probably loses some build quality. I wouldn't say stability, but just a solid feeling. Scooter, it probably loses some of that, just because of how it's designed. But it looks awesome. I really like the way it looks. I like, they have some traction control too, but they've had traction control with their scooters in the past, and they didn't have the same kind of issue. So I think Segway's probably got a good handle on that. So I do like that about the scooter. I just love the design. I can't really say enough about that. I love the tubed frame, similar to the Nami's. I just, they did a great job on the design, and I trust Segway to get it right. So the other thing is that they're reputable. Obviously, Segway is reputable, and I do believe that they put out quality products and they stand by their products. So they're probably number one as far as being a reputable scooter company. The solid build, like I said, I think the scooter is probably built solid. I wouldn't expect anything less from Segway. So it's just that's my fears are alleviated pretty much from that for sure. I wouldn't be too concerned about the GT3 Pro being a less than adequate build quality. All right. Lastly on my list of strong considerations is also from Segway, the Segway Super Scooter GT2. It's a dual motor version, the previous version of the GT3 Pro. I still like it a lot, and I think when it's at its normal price of $24.99, it's a great value. Now, I don't know if this scooter is going to drop back down to their price, if they're going to have them back in stock. I found them on Amazon for about $3,000, which is a tad high for me. But I also don't know what this scooter is going to release at. So they're kind of like competing for each other in my mind as far as that goes. Same thing applies here with the stability, the value. Obviously, if it drops back down to $24.99, I do consider that a decent value. And obviously, the reputable and have a solid build. This particular scooter has a really solid build, which I was saying before because of how it's kind of designed. It's probably less portable, less easy to squeeze into space and so forth because it's a little more beefy on the base and goes all the way up halfway up the stem. It's all built into that, so that adds to some solid, stable feeling scooter. The other scooter's stable, I'm sure, as far as like not having wobbles, but as far as feeling like the scooter is good and under you there, it's that you're riding on something that's not going to be too movable. It's just a feeling, right? And so this is probably, and from what I've seen, a much stable feeling scooter as far as it goes. Not necessarily unstable, comparatively, but just a solid scooter. And I really like it a lot. The reviews have been great. Once again, it only goes up to like 45, I think, or something like that. But it does a great job of doing that. I don't necessarily need any more than that. So if I bought that scooter, that would be one of the things that I would think about along the way. But the GT2, awesome scooter. If I can get it for $2,500, or the other, like I said, the other scooter releases, I just don't know how to compare. If it's $4,000. I'm probably not going to get it. If it's, it just depends. It kind of depends if I can find the scooter. So if I had them, both to choose from for $3,000, I'll probably go with the newer one, the GT3 Pro. I like the display on that one as well, better than this one. I don't hate this one, but the other one is better. I'll prefer the nice dark screen with the color display. So that's that. I mean, like I said, there are things I like about it. I like the GT3 Pro design, the way it looks better. This scooter's fine, great, and it does some things better than the GT3 Pro. And at $24.99, it's a great value. But once again, if they drop the GT3 Pro at $24.99, no, I'm probably going to go with that. That's an excellent value. So, but I don't know whether I don't anticipate Segway doing that for their first the release right out of the gate. But we'll see, and I'll be keeping an eye on that, and you never know. All right, these are some of my less likely candidates. They're behind the other ones. They're just behind the other ones. So if none of those worked out, I might start looking at these as possible candidates. First up is the Eohura. It's just it's the big thing here is value. I think that it's a pretty good value. I really do. I think they have $400 off most of the time, whether it's a Christmas sale, whether it's you can find $400 off this scooter quite a bit. I found it. So this scooter you can find $400 coupons on. So we're talking $4,500. That's a little bit more than what I want to spend, and it's probably why it's less likely because I don't know if I really would pull the trigger on this one, but I had to put it in the category because that's kind of where it sits. It kind of sits in the middle for me. I know it's not a regular scooter, but for this price, I kind of like the electric chopper thing, and you just never know. You just never know. Um, it's really decent. 50 miles an hour, 50 miles of range. Yeah, it's really tempting. I like the scooter quite a bit, or whatever you call that motorcycle. A couple things that would be probably make me not get it, and while I say it's one of the reasons it's less likely is because I couldn't ride this on bike paths. Really, I couldn't, or sidewalks. It would be a street scooter. It would be a motorcycle. I'd have to use it like a motorcycle, and being that being the case, I would likely have to get a motorcycle license. I would have to register it as a motorcycle and get a motorcycle license to drive it around. And that seems like a lot to do just to get a scooter. I wouldn't want to, got to go take a test, and I don't ride motorcycles. I don't ride motorcycles. I've never had a motorcycle license. This scooter I wouldn't be too worried about jumping on and riding down the street. It's very simple, very easy. Um, Not very heavy compared to like a motorcycle, so I don't have to know how to take tight turns on a beast of a bike that I can barely hold up. Those are just some things that I would have to learn, to be honest with you, that I don't want to have to mess with. I like this scooter, but if I had to register it like a motorcycle, it would require me to get a license where I live, and so that would be one of the things I don't know if I'd want to go to the trouble to do. Could I do it? Sure. Is it worth it? No, I don't know. So maybe not. All right, next up is the RX-7. And once again, this is one that's less likely. It's still a candidate, especially since they got the new panels. I really like that they've done that. I know they've been kind of having some issues trying to get this, right or whatever, but I think that they might be heading in the right direction. I heard some good stuff about a guy who just he ordered the RS. One of my viewers ordered the RS5 Max, having some second thoughts. Really was heard about the new panels plugging in. He wanted to get that. He asked him to send it if he could send it back and not have to pay a restocking fee if he wanted to get the RX-7. So they're working with him on that, and they're accommodating him, which is good. I think that's good. And so he's getting a RX-7 pretty soon. If you're watching this, please let me know how it goes and keep me posted on that. But it's certainly a consideration. Right now, $37.99, I consider to be a decent value for this scooter, considering all the specs that come out with, and if those panels work better, then I do think this is a value. So I would certainly consider it if my fears of having to deal with those lights again could be alleviated, and that they were going to help me. Those are two things, that are a big deal. The rest of the scooter, I don't have a problem with. I've heard really good things about how it rides, everything. People love it. So, but no one wants to deal with the ugly panels going out, or the panels going out and becoming ugly. So, once again, things I like about the scooter: Magura brakes, PMT tires, Samsung battery, KKE shocks. I mean, everything's spec'd out to stuff that you would normally try to upgrade to, and it's already there. So I like I said, it's got a steering damper. It goes really fast, and it comes with a steering damper. It's not something I got to buy for it, so I can accept that. It's not something I would normally do, and I wouldn't necessarily look for a scooter with a steering damper, as I might have mentioned in the past. And it's still a point of consideration, and so one of the reasons it's not on my strong candidates, but more on my less likely candidates, is because it does need a steering damper, which is not the end of the world. And like I said, it comes with it, so it's not a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker. Everything 11 by 4 inch. That's just the tires are huge. It's an IP66. The scooter is spec'd out. It's a great scooter across the board. I like it a lot, and so it is a less likely but possible candidate for my next scooter. Last one in my less likely candidates is going to be the Mars XTR. And the Mars XTR is just a really good value, right? Off the charts value, stable. Two big things of mine up front: stability, and like I said, it's stable as I wouldn't have any concerns about the stability of this scooter. Um, it's a great scooter as far as that goes. Obviously, like I said, the value at $3,400 for all is specced out, I believe, makes this scooter a really good value. Reputable, it's up in the air. I'm not sure. It just hasn't been out that long. The company hasn't been out that long. Some of the things that I have heard early on about issues that they've contacted the company have been tough to deal with. There's not that many, but once again, they're very young. People that have the XTR seem to love it. I heard a problem about another scooter. It wasn't the XTR, the Z something, but the Z scooter, whichever one it is, ZTR. I don't know. So, but whatever it is, that scooter, I've heard some issues with the wiring and so forth, and they really had a tough time getting hold of customer service and getting a response from them. And maybe it's because they're trying to get away from that scooter. So that's fine, but support your scooters that you've already sold. I think they don't want to do that, and they're trying to look towards other stuff. That's my thought. And so possibly why they were getting sort of not, direct, quality customer service. But it's still a problem. They can change their mind at any time, decide they don't want to support this one. So they need to be consistent. They need to support everything across the board 100% great. And most of the stuff I've heard, well, I haven't heard any problems with the scooter. From what I've heard about the service, I've heard issues, maybe one or two. Haven't heard anything negative about the XTR personally that I can think of. So once again, the scooter's huge. It's got a huge battery. It's got tons of specs. Goes super, over 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour. Dual stem, does so very stable. Huge battery, lots of range. Fire extinguisher safety. It's not UL listed, but it does have a name brand battery, so I wouldn't be too concerned about the battery as far as that goes. And supposedly they are working on UL listing, and if I missed it, then I apologize if they've done that already. But it's just a huge beast of a scooter that is well worth $3,400 compared to some of the others in the same range. Let's talk about some that kind of have an outside chance at making it. If I couldn't find anything with the others, and I couldn't get past some of the issues, and some didn't turn out the way I expected, or who knows what could happen between now and then. They all go up in price, whatever it is. So some of the others that I would have an outside chance of making it into my consideration still are the GoTrax GX series. Any of these, actually, they're all dual motors. The GX0, the GX1, GX2, they're all great values right now. They're solid scooters. GoTrax makes a good scooter. And they're not very fast scooters, but they do perform well up to speed. They don't have wobble issues and so forth. Like I said, they're not super fast scooters, but they don't build their scooters that way. But these are a good value. Anywhere from $800 to $1,300. As long as they stay at this price point, I consider them a good value. And if at that time when it came time and I didn't really have any better options, I might consider getting one of these scooters. No question about it. They all have decent speed, anywhere from 28 miles an hour to 35 miles an hour, which is probably all I would ever need most of the time. And if I'm paying $800 for a scooter, it doesn't bother me so much that it doesn't go faster than 28 miles an hour. I would less likely get the GX0 and more likely the GX1 or GX2, but it all depends on where they are at the time, comparatively speaking. So they're a reputable company. The scooters are solid. I've heard a little bit of problem with customer service, but it's mostly just the delay, not the not the resolution. Kind of like what I had with Fluid. Just took a while, but they are good at supporting their scooters and doing the right thing in the end, from what I've heard. So they're a little slow in the customer service, but they're a reputable company, good scooters. You don't have to worry about too much about that. The Varla Eagle One series, the V2 or the V3, either one of those. I like those scooters quite a bit. The V2 is probably a better deal at the moment for what it is. I like the V3 as well, but right now the V2 is a better value. That is one important thing. As far as stability goes, I believe scooters are stable. I've never heard anything to the contrary. For what they can do, they go up around 40 miles an hour, and they do so pretty well from everything that I've heard. So, haven't heard anything, any weirdness about them being unstable, anything like that. They seem to handle and be built pretty well. As far as reputable, and like I said, the V2 is a decent value in my opinion for $1,400. Are they reputable? They're a new company. I can't say either. From what I know, I haven't heard anything negative about Varla at all. I've heard some good. I haven't heard a lot of great things. So it's still kind of like out there. I've heard a little bit of good things, and I haven't heard anything bad that I remember at all. Um, not that I can recall. So that if so, that it didn't stick, and it hasn't been much because I don't recall anything about the Varlas in a negative way. Like I said, I've heard a few good things, people that like them, and but it's not roaring approval or anything like that. But I have heard some good things, and I can't recall any negative things at the moment. Next up, on the outside chance, scooters that have an outside chance, they're really less likely. They're less than less likely. They really got an outside chance. You never know, but the other ones could fall through. Whatever happens, and these relatively are better value and so forth. It could happen. So, the Yumi line. There's a couple that I like in here that I consider to be decent value scooters. I think that they are fairly stable scooters. From what I haven't heard anything to the negative. I'll say this: uh, I've heard good and bad things about Yumi. Some people haven't, I you know haven't liked them, don't like them for whatever reason. But I haven't heard a lot of negative stuff about Yumi. Most of the stuff that I hear about Yumi is good, and when I say that, I don't necessarily see a lot of people just I love this. I mean, some love their Yumis. I've had a couple that maybe complained about something that they didn't like or went bad. I don't recall, but not too much to be honest. And one thing I'll say is that the people that see, in every I might have said this before, but in every single post that I see in electric scooter boards, because I follow a lot of electric scooter boards, and or a few anyway, and some that I see, every time I see someone asking, "Hey, what kind of scooter should I get?" which is a lot, almost every day. There's always one person in there that's like, "Hey, you should get a Yumi." Sometimes more. There's always at least one in that chat that comes in and says, "Get a Yumi, you'll love it." I had people recommend getting a Yumi to me when I was considering getting the Klima. I looked at them, and at the time, I don't think they had anything that I was really interested in that I liked as much as the Klima. So I didn't give them a serious look, to be honest. I glanced at them, but the owners of Yumi, they seem to be pretty loyal, and so I feel like there's a reason for that. And so some of the Yumis have an outside shot. The Predator is a great spec scooter, really nicely spec. Uh, the Raptor I think is a good deal. The Hawk um, is a really good deal. Well, the Hawk Pro, wherever that is, yeah, Hawk Pro wide, really good deal. Some of these scooters are actually decent for the price when I looked at them compared. So they the Yumis have an outside chance. A few of them I like a lot. So you never know. Like I said, they're fairly reputable. They seem to be solid. and so forth. I just don't hear too many bad things about the company, and it seems to be plenty of people that do like them, that do recommend them because they're constantly recommending them. And I'm not talking about like someone says, "Hey, click on my link." I mean, just people saying, "Get this Yumi, get that Yumi, you'll want this," so forth. I love my Yumi, whatever it is. So I see that constantly, 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 constantly. Everyone has their opinions. You have your Nami people, you have your Cabo people. I think that's kind of dying down because everything that's going on with Cabo, but Cabo's similar in a way. So I do think this company is doing some good things and doing some things right for them to have that kind of loyalty from their current customers. So that says something about the company, and they're also fairly well priced, kind of like the Solars. I think you get a good bang for your buck. Speaking of Namis, there's an outside chance that I could get another Nami. I'm looking at Wired Rides at the moment. They only have a handful of Namis that are available, and I did want to update as well. I did ask Michael Shaw about Voro Motors carrying Namis anytime soon, and he said that wouldn't be something that would be done right away. That would probably take a while to get that up and going, so it's not something any of you should expect right away. So if you're one Nami, if you don't want Nami products and so forth, Wired Rides is the place to go in the U.S. at the moment. And I've heard good things about Wired Rides, so I wouldn't hesitate. They just their stock is kind of limited, and their parts as well. So, in my opinion, probably would have to go through them, and they'd have to go to Nami to get parts. But who knows? Maybe they're beefing up their relationship, and they're getting a bunch of new stuff in. I'll be paying attention. And from what I hear, because someone was asking about it on the post that I commented on, was that they should be getting some Klimas. They're getting a shipment of Klimas soon. So if you guys are interested in the Klimas, you might want to check out Wired Rides. They're a tad expensive compared to what I got mine for. But if they're the only place you can get them and you really want a Klima, Wired Rides isn't too bad. I think there's maybe a code out there somewhere you can get like 5% off. So that brings it down a bit to help out some. But I like it right now. They do have the Super Stellar. The only thing I don't like about that one is it doesn't have adjustable shocks. Everything else is pretty okay on the scooter, I think. It looks like a nice scooter, the Super Stellar. They have the Bernie Max. You never know. You never know. Probably not, but you never know. Then you got this Blast right here. I kind of like this green Blast. I don't know how I feel about these one-sided tires being held on by one side. I like the suspension. I like the front suspension. I think it gives a cool look, and I hear it's really stable as well. So that would be that would be an interesting scooter to have. This one is probably a little high. The normal price for one's only about $3,100. Although they're sold out, this one is in stock, and it's a limited edition mint green. I call it mint green. Nami Blast Max for $3,700. Like, it's about $600 more, but it's a limited edition. There's only 9 of them. So if you got one, you'd be one of only 9 people that had one, and I kind of like them. So. Apollo has some good deals. They have an outside chance, once again, of me getting a scooter from them. If they have a good price, they have pretty good prices right now. I like the Apollo Go at $9.99. It's the only one I really feel like is a little off right now at $10.99. And coincidentally, I did get an email or text or something today from Apollo saying that they'll give me $100 off the Go. So that's priced at $9.99, which is where I think it stands to be a decent deal. The City is $14.99, which is where I think it is a decent deal, and the Pro is $29.99, and also I think that is a decent deal. So those 3 scooters are priced appropriately at the moment, but Apollo moves a lot, so they'll probably go up and come back down. So by the time I do decide to make a decision, if they're available, and their prices are what they close to what they are now, you never know. So there's an outside chance if everything else that I looked at doesn't come through, or there's who knows, for whatever reason, then I could possibly get another Apollo. I like the Pro quite a bit, at $29.99. I think it's a really good deal for that price. I've watched it for a while. I think for like $3,500. I think it's kind of okay at 32, to be honest. But $3,000, I really think it's a deal. So that might be the biggest deal right now. I like the Go just because it's only $1,000, and if I could replace my Hover One Journey Max scooters with the Go, it's tempting. So you never know. I could end up getting an Apollo. I think they're fairly reputable. They have a solid build for sure, and the value, it's questionable depending on where they are at the time. Sometimes they are a decent value, sometimes they're a good value, and then sometimes not so much. I don't think that they really hang around in those higher prices all that often. I think that's a game. I don't think they sell that many. I don't even know if they intend to sell that many, but when they drop back down, probably their sales shoot back up again. And so they're doing like this little incremental thing, once again, kind of playing the pricing game. And most people kind of consider them to be overpriced for that reason, possibly. So when they look at the scooters and they're like, oh, this is too much money for this scooter, for the specs and so forth, like they are with the Phantoms right now. Both Phantoms are slightly overpriced, in my opinion. And of course, they're going to do that because they're new. They're going to get what they can out because there's lots of people excited, and their sales aren't going to tank too much from being a tad overpriced. But they're a tad overpriced. Maybe next year during Black Friday they'll come back. They'll come down, and who knows? Maybe next year the Phantom will be a better value. Right now, they're new. They're a little overpriced, but that stands to reason considering that they're brand new releases. But I won't be interested regardless. So I will not be getting a Phantom. Most likely. Never say never, but anything can happen between now and then. But I don't expect that I would get one. But there are plenty of other Apollos that I would consider. The City, the Go, or the Pro right now are at decent prices. And if everything else fell through, or I just like that, better than anything else I was looking at the time, I almost got the Phantom, the older Phantom V4X or VX4, whatever it was. I really liked that scooter a lot. I was debating between it and the Klima, and then it was kind of a three-way battle between the Klima, the Cobble Wolf 10, and then the Klima, the Apollo Phantom, and the Wolf 10. All great scooters. I felt like the Wolf 10 at the time was the same price as the Nom, as the Klima, but it maybe went up $100 or something like that. And then the Cobble Wolf 10 was a really good deal in my opinion, at like $1,499, $1,500. Pretty much the same specs as the Klima, and so I felt like that was a better value. But at the end of the day, I went with the Klima. I am happy with that decision in general, based on what I did. So I'm happy I got it. It's hard to find right now. It's certainly hard to find at that price. So I feel pretty good about my decision, and so far it's held up in general. So fingers crossed it continues to go as well as it has been. All right. I mentioned some other Segways, but when I say some of the Segways that have an outside chance, maybe some of their single motor scooters. You never know. I know I've said I really don't consider single motor scooters very often. I really don't. That's why there's sort of an outside chance. It's not very likely that I would choose a single motor scooter, but there are a couple that Segway has that I think are pretty decent. First of all, you have the GT3, which is not the Pro version, but the single motor version still looks great. I'm sure it performs well. It goes up to 31 miles an hour. Plenty, and I'm sure it does it really well. So for the price at $1,499, that's also a value. I believe that's a value. I mean, that's a brand new scooter. They didn't try to jack it up like they did the GT1. So I think they've done a pretty good job of that. And like I said, when the GT3 Pro comes out, I think maybe that they're hopefully will be just as competitive and maybe open and start it at $24.99. If that's the case, man, it's going to be real tough to pass up. But I don't know when, and I don't know for sure. So we'll see. The G3 Max, or Max G3, Segway Max G3. Also, I don't know, hasn't released yet. I don't know what the price is going to be. If it's $999, it's a possibility. If I'm comparing that to the Go, and I am deciding to go for $1,000 scooter, that's kind of what that is, kind of replace the Hover One Journey Max. Then it's a possibility. It's a possibility. With the like I said, if the Go is the same price, if it stays $999, and I'm comparing it to the Max G3 when I do make those, if that happens to go that way, I'll probably go with the Go because it's a dual motor and it's $999. But if it goes back up to like $1,200 something dollars, and the Max G3 releases at $999, yeah, like I said, everything goes that way. Sure, I can see that. I can see that happening. Uh, the ZT3 Pro, I think it's a single motor scooter. Goes 25 miles an hour, gets decent range. Looks like a fairly well built scooter. I wouldn't say it's made for off roading, but certainly like trails and so forth. I think you probably handle pretty well. Got good suspension, nice tires, and like I said, kind of beefy built, as opposed to taking something like a Max G3 off road or on a trail. So this will perform much better on a trail. I wouldn't go over like major stuff like off-roading type off-roading, but off pavement, I'll call it. So yeah, segways are clearly one of the serious considerations in general because of their reputation. Their value is questionable sometimes. They can be a little high. Some of their scooters I think are decent value. So it just depends on how that comes out. Solid build, obviously, reputable, everything. So lots of good things to say about Segway, and they got some really good stuff. So who knows? Even the GT1, I don't know if I've seen that one at 14, but single motor scooter. If everything else, it's going to be last on my list, to be honest with you, because just not that excited about single motor scooters. But I can't predict the future, and these are things that I would consider to replace my Journey Max. Although that would be tough. That would be tough. You never know. Apollo Go could probably replace my Journey Max. I could test them. If I don't know. Tough one. So we'll see. But that's why I say they're outside chance. There are some things that they might, sway me one way or the other, depending on when the time comes. But you never know. All right, finally, the scooters that have no shot right now, they have no shot. As it sits, they have no shot. And to start off with, are the eMove brand. So right now, and it's not for any reason, I don't hate eMove or anything like that. But as I've dug more and more into each of these possibilities, there are things that I consider to be don't really match up with what I'm looking for. So I was interested at first in the eMove Cruiser V2 all-wheel drive, dual motor, what have you, and right now I don't see it. I think it's overpriced. If it were cheaper, I might consider it, but I paid the same thing or $100 less for my Klima. I just don't think it's a Klima. I mean, I wouldn't pay $2,000 for that, knowing what I got with the Klima. So I like it, but not that much. I don't think I could see paying $2,000 for that scooter, and so right now, it's not in my considerations. The Roadrunner Pro is the only other one that I could consider, but it's priced out. It's way overpriced. I feel like the scooter price should be around $2,500, and then an additional battery, maybe another $500, and then that would be a decent price. $3,000 to get both of those, plus they're going to charge you tax, is a decent price. It's not a great price. It's a decent price. Charging $2,700 for the scooter, and then even a $500 battery would be tad overpriced. But at the moment, last time I checked, the eMove Roadrunner Pro was $2,700, and the battery has went up to like $800. I mean, I'm confused, but either way, that's the current pricing, and no, that's way beyond what I would pay for those scooters. when I first started looking at the Roadrunner Pro, it was cheaper. I don't remember what it was. It was when I very first started looking. I want to say it was like $2,500. Then it jumped up like $200. Maybe I'm confused, but I'm pretty sure I saw a lower price when I very first started looking, because when I came back and looked again, it was $2,700, and I was like, whoa, interesting. I have some stuff written down. I could go take another look and see. I wasn't seriously looking at a sit down scooter, so I don't know if I have anything that detailed on it. But I do think I had it on my list. Finally, the Daytona. I love that scooter. It's got so much potential. There are just a few little quirks that I'm not going to be able to get past. One of them is the question of stability. Them not wanting to test the scooter over 40 miles an hour, it's just a big question mark for me. As long as it's a question mark, it's a question mark. I'm not going to be considering getting a Daytona at the moment. I hope they make it under $4,000. I hope they're able to do that and make a stable scooter. Like, I don't want them cutting corners, that they shouldn't be cutting to get the scooter under $4,000. But it doesn't necessarily need to be the Dualtron, or the eMove Roadster to be a good scooter. That scooter's specced out, glammed out, everything you could think of. It's like carbon fiber for all this fancy stuff. It doesn't need the fancy stuff. I like that they went away from the fancy stuff and looking at a solid build for a scooter that has a potential to be a good deal for a well specced out scooter. But they haven't actually pulled that off yet completely, that I can verify. And so, although I'm very excited about that scooter, and it was up high in my considerations, it's now no longer in my considerations, just because I'm going to see how it plays out. I still love the scooter. I don't hate the scooter. And if they do it for under $4,000, I believe it could be a value. So I'll be keeping an eye on it. But for now, it's not a consideration. Doesn't mean that can change. Some things could change. I could see something, who knows. Right now, it's a no. It's a no-go for me. No of these. If the road, I really like the Roadrunner Pro. I'm starting to lean, forward to maybe, lean toward maybe getting a sit-down scooter, kind of mix it up, have something else to ride when I might want to do that instead. See how I like it. But not for that price. No way. Cabos are a no right now for me. They have no shot. I love the King GT Pro. I think it's an excellent value. And once they're back out again, it's going to take a while for them to get over this wolf thing and, make sure they can support their products and so forth. I'm just not willing to pull the trigger on a Cabo at the moment, even though I think the GT Pro is an excellent value, great scooter. It hasn't had the types of problems that you have with the GTR, but they've had some issues. Cabos had some issues getting dropped by Voro, and now their fluids growing out of business, and they're not going to be there either. So the only place to get a Cabo that I'm aware of now is with Cabo, and that's shaky. For me, it's shaky right now, so it is not going to be a consideration for me at the moment at all. Lastly, back to the InMotion RS. As much as I like this scooter, $4,000 I think is okay for the scooter. It's not a bad price. When it was $3,500, I felt like it was a better deal, a better value, and I was leaning toward it more than the InMotion Live for $2,500. I think those are deals, and so they're very tempting. However, at the moment, they're still having issues with the wiring, motor controllers, those types of things going out, and people love them. People love their scooters. They're willing to do work on them, and so it says something about the scooters themselves and how they're built. And they're coming out with a new version of the RS. But even if they do, and by then, I expect them to still be around $4,000, $3,000. And not only that, it's I just want to see that tested first. I want to see other people and the things with the wiring. That's going to take some time to see how that goes and see how that holds up. And if it holds up well in the future, that might be a possibility. But at the moment, it's not. It's not in my, not going to do it. Not for now. it's a no. They have no shot. No shot of me getting an Motion RS at the moment. Final thoughts. I'm still excited about getting a scooter. Starting, to shape up a little bit as far as kind of what I'm looking at. There's some that I really like, and are great values. There are others that I like, and they're not necessarily a good value. There are some that I wouldn't have had taken a look at, but I might look at closer, just depending on everything goes. So I'll be watching all the prices. I'll be watching all the moves, all the new scooters coming out. There's plenty of stuff. The VMAX is coming out. I just don't know enough about that one to make a determinative call. So it's a big, I don't know. Who knows? But so a lot can happen between now and a couple of months from now or so, and at the earliest. And then I'll be taking a look, and I'm in no hurry. I'm not going to pull the trigger or anything like that, but I'll be a lot closer to making a choice. If I do get something, I want to get something around springtime when the weather's starting to be nice, so I can ride it all summer long and into the fall, until like this time of year next year, where it'll be I'll have to sit and not get ridden very much. So guys, if you enjoyed this content, if you found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Consider joining my Patreon, buy me a coffee, or picking up some merch. Thanks, and happy riding.